Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the channel. Thank you for taking the time. So let's just get right into this. This video, I want to go over God of War Ragnarok, just some early impressions, give you my thoughts. I have a couple other topics surrounding God of War and sort of Sony in general. But let's dive right in because this game is, first of all, let's get this out of the way. I've put in about 8 hours right now. That's where my save file is. I'm playing on Give Me Balance, which is the medium difficulty level, and this will have no spoilers. I'm not going to talk about anything on the story side. I'll talk a little bit about gameplay or whatever, but I'm not going to give anything away because this is a game that I believe it serves you the best to go into this blind. Don't try your best not to get spoiled on this, because I will say this, in terms of the story itself, this game is blowing me away. There are things that are going on in the story that I'm in shock. I mean, when I say that, it kind of sounds like hyperbole, but it genuinely, has surprised me, and it's kind of hard to do. Stories are, at least nowadays, they're pretty predictable, and you can kind of see where most things are going when it comes to TV shows and movies and whatnot. Video games, same thing. Any sort of media entertainment. But this game is caught me off guard, and it's great. That's a really, really good thing. But I will not be talking about spoilers. So first thing I want to talk about, getting into this game and coming into, the release of it. There's been a lot of chatter all year long. There's been tons of media outlets, channels, a lot of Xbox channels have been really pushing this. God of War Ragnarok is going to get delayed. I think that was hope. And like Nerdrotic said, hope is not a strategy. And the idea that there was never any indication that this game was going to be delayed or pushed out of 2022, I think it was just people trying to be negative and try to drag it down, because from the Team Green side, I can understand there's probably some sour grapes over there. There's no first-party games coming out on Xbox, so I get it. I do understand that they're playing to their base. That's just part of the game. But it was fun to watch just the amount of negativity being shot at this title when Sony was being very tight-lipped about this, and so was the studio, Sony Santa Monica. And I don't know how that got started, but it seemed like every other week there was Ragnarok's going to get delayed. It's not coming out this year. Sony ponies are getting their hopes up. They're about to get their dreams just crushed and all this other crap. To know that it actually came out, because, I've said this before, any game can get delayed. This game, if I'm not mistaken, this game was delayed once already. So it's not a definite, like this game was coming out for sure. And but I never got the feeling or the indication that Sony Santa Monica was going to delay this into next year. So, and also there was some other talk because of the game trailers that came out and the gameplay. There was like the advertising trailers that there's no gameplay. It's just sort of CGI goodness thrown at you and some sound and stuff. But when actual gameplay came out, there was a lot of negativity that Kratos jumped in the boat the same way he did in the first game. He jumped and did the same slam. He swung his blades of chaos the same way, and Kratos climbed the wall the same way. It was the same old stuff. It was just hating. This game is not going to be as good. Don't get your hopes up. And, there was a big name like David Jaffe, who I don't like at all. I think he's a punk. And him calling this DLC before the game even came out, like, this is DLC. This just looks like DLC. It's nothing special. And you know what? I think he's sour. Just to me, as someone who was was a developer in, I think, God of War 3 and 1, if I'm not mistaken. But I know this is his baby, going back in the day. But to just to come out and shit on the game now, it just looked like sour grapes to me. So I think it's funny that people like him, they got to eat some crow. And when you come out and you run your mouth and you bag on something before you know anything, or, it's one thing to give your opinion, give your take. That's fine. That's totally okay. But for someone to come out and just label something like, it's DLC, it's the same old stuff. This is just the same game. I can tell you from personal experience playing this game, this is not DLC. This story of this game and the campaign where it's going, it picks up it picks up in a way right where we left off. In a way, like I said, I'm not going to spoil it, but this game, the story is just unfolding in such a way that it has just expanded on everything. Like, to me, this is what a true sequel to a game should be. Now, I mean, me being, selfish, I would love for Sony Santa Monica to make a third. And like I said, I've only put in 8 hours, but I just love what they're doing so far. So let's talk about the visuals. They're second to none. The landscapes, the lighting and the shadows, just the world itself, it just feels alive. Everything feels well placed. Everything feels like you could tell was meticulously designed and put before the player intentionally. It doesn't feel like anything was just sort of haphazardly thrown in, or like an additional mode that was thrown in to make it, more friendly for, like multiplayer or something like that. Nothing feels tacked onto this. This feels like a project that was built from the ground up by a very talented team. That's what it feels like to me. The visuals are they're stunning, just absolutely stunning. I think it's great. The open world itself, and when I say open world, this is not an open world game. This is not a traditional open world game. It's actually very narrow, just like the first one. And again, this isn't spoiling anything, but the areas that I've played in, the exploration is fun. It's rewarding. I want to get off the beaten path and look around. Me being the completionist, it's hard for me not to. But it feels worthwhile. I don't feel like there's areas that don't have anything, or there's no reason to be there, or it's just there to be there. Everything just feels so perfectly crafted and molded so that it flows just perfectly so far. Now, again, this may take a total turn in the next 4 or 5 hours, whatever, and the ending may suck. I'm only giving you this is an early impressions. This is my take from just 8 hours of gameplay, but I've gotten a decent amount of the story. Like, the plot is rolling. I know where we're going. I know, Act 1 is complete. Essentially, I'm in Act 2, but I'm really, really loving it. Just the look, Jesus, the look is just amazing. There is one thing that I will nitpick one thing, and this is a nitpick, but I don't like invisible barriers. So when you are exploring and it looks as though you could maybe go a little bit further, and then there's that sort of invisible wall and your character just sort of stops. I don't like that. I wish that you could fall off ledges and die. like in Red Dead Redemption or Grand Theft Auto. There's no safe barriers or nothing. There's nothing protecting you. If you walk to the ledge of a building, you can fall off that junk. So that is a nitpick, because it feels, in a way, to me, it kind of reminds me, oh, you're playing a video game, and I don't know. I kind of like it breaks the immersion in some way for me, but that's just me. Again, that's just a nitpick of mine. It's not breaking the game in any way, but yeah, it's just one thing I don't like. But, the music, the score, everything fits so perfectly. The score is providing music in movies, TV shows, and video games. It's there to provide you, for the most part, emotion, to heighten the situation that you're in. So whether it's a touching scene between two characters where a character's dying, or two characters are arguing and it's really tense, or it's your heroes are running from like a zombie horde just chasing them down, like some crazy moment. The music is there to emphasize that situation. I really think they have done a top-notch job with the music. It sounds, the score is just there. It fits right in the background, right where it should be. But it's not some boombastic crap that's just blaring in your face, just telling you got to be happy, or you need to be surprised, or you should be sad. It's just perfect. It just fits perfectly. So I really love it. And the sound effects to the combat and the fights, it's all good. The combat itself, You know, when you swing your blades of chaos, when you throw your axe, or when you're slicing and dicing, you can feel it. It feels really good and very rewarding, just the sound itself. There was another gripe that I have is, and I don't know if it's just my setup, because I'm playing this game on my OLED screen and I have a JBL soundbar. It's got surround sound. It's pretty trick. I like it. It's because the way my living room is set up, I don't have to run wires, so it's Bluetooth. It's hooked directly into my TV, but the surround sound speakers are Bluetooth. It's a solid setup sound-wise. However, when I'm playing the game, there is a delay in the sound. So when you, let's say for instance, when Kratos crashes his fist through a treasure chest to get the loot out of it, there's a slight delay, so his fist breaks the lid of the treasure chest, and there's just like a few milliseconds of delay before that sound hits the speakers. I don't know if that's a development problem or if it's something that's wrong with the game, but I did notice it, and it's, for me personally, it bothers me. It really does, you know, because when the mouths are moving and the sound isn't perfect, it kind of bugs me a little bit, but it's not breaking the game for me. Like so far, like that was early on that it was really bothering me. Now I don't even notice it. And again, I'm not trying to cover up for this, but I will say this. It could be my setup. I have not played it with a headset. I've only played it on that one TV because I want to get the full visual experience. And playing on a 65-inch OLED, if you got one, hook it up to it. I would definitely recommend hooking this up to the best video output that you have, because it's paying dividends. It really is. It looks so good. Technically, what they have done with the design of the world and the characters, the detail of the characters, and the dialogue between the characters, the cutscenes, they're, because it's one single camera angle, it's not really a cutscene, but the characters and their interactions with one another when they're bantering or arguing, it's just a nice tight script. It feels like I'm watching an epic tale unfold in front of me, and I just can't turn away. I'm so invested in what I'm seeing. But you know, again, back to the sound, that does kind of bother me. So I don't know. Like I said, I haven't looked it up. I haven't checked it out if this is a bug that they're going to fix. There's already been, I think there's been 2 updates that have been downloaded. I think I leave my PlayStation on rest mode most of the time, mainly because I'm either charging my controller or my headset. But the PlayStation will do the downloads, but there's been a couple of times where I've turned it completely off, and then when I turn it on, it starts to do a download or an update. So I honestly haven't kept track, but I think there's been 2 at least. So I don't know if you're having this problem. Kind of sucks. But again, I've already moved past it. It's not like bringing me down or anything. Okay, so a little bit about the story. So when I said earlier, you know, where we pick up in the story, it doesn't feel. It feels like I'm being reacquainted with old friends. They talk to each other, and they talk about what's going on in the moment that provides backstory and provides anything that is a gap that you may be, like, for me at least, when I was asking myself, what have they been doing since this? Why are they doing this now? And that type of thing. The dialogue thus far is providing all those answers, and it's not just crappy ass exposition dumps. It's not like Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, where every character has to tell you exactly how they feel and what they see so that the dumb consumer sitting there in front of their TV can understand it. This game, they are treating me like an intelligent customer, like someone who is able to understand and interpret what's going on and read facial expressions and body movement, you know, between the characters. They do it so well. And the dialogue is just another piece that's tacked onto this great project, this product that just has everything that I would really want, or that I think generally speaking, I think any customer, this is what you want to pay your money for. Like, if you're going to pay $70, because this game is $70, at least the standard edition. I think there was a I think there was a special edition, but I typically don't buy those. But I feel like I'm getting my money's worth, and I've only played for 8 hours. So everything that's going on with the story is just clicking along. There have been total shocks and surprises where I'm generally like, what the hell? And I'm talking to the screen like, no way, like something like that, and I'm not going to say that this game is super funny or humorous, but it does have moments of levity that provide that sort of, it reminds you that these people are not just, or these characters are not just sort of these robotic NPC characters. They actually have life in them. They crack on each other sometimes. They make jokes and they reference certain things that have been said, and it just works. Very well written. I think this is, dialogue wise, the overarching story and the journey that I'm on right now, I feel really invested in it. And furthermore, like, I can't wait to get back to it. I just can't wait. Like, I want to go play it right now so that I can see, I go sit down for another 2 hours. I know that those 2 hours are going to be well spent. I won't be wasting my time or grinding for better gear or having to knock out 6 or 7 missions to move the main story forward. Everything is just moving along at a pace that I'm really satisfied with. That's the best way I can say it. Going to the combat, love it. I think it's great. And I think too that one of the things that people were they were skeptical, about God of War Ragnarok, the sequel or whatever. And again, this is only 2 games, right? This is the end. So at the end of this game, who knows how it's going to end? Who knows? But Sony Santa Monica, this is a 2-parter. So God of War that came out in 2018, and now Ragnarok, and then that's it for this story. I think that people were worried, even myself. It's like, what can you do with this combat? Like, how do you make it better? Because I'm not a developer, I don't know, but I know what I like, and I know when things feel like they have been expanded upon, and that's really kind of the best way I can say for the combat is, yeah, there is a lot of the same in a general sense, but in so many ways it's not. So many ways they have made changes to the combat overall, and not just the combat, but the weapons and the gear too, that it feels like the next generation of God of War. It feels like, yeah, this feels right. The combat is very rewarding. The enemy types are, that was another complaint too, is that, I look in, the same enemies, we're seeing the same crap. They're ducking and dodging the same guys. Oh, it's just this, it's just DLC. It's not. Okay, there are absolutely the same enemies. There are same enemies from the first game that are in this game, but there's other enemies too. There's definitely different types of enemies, and they're tactics that you have to sort of evolve with and upgrading with your skills. And the way you unlock your skills, or your abilities and stuff, it's working for me. I really like it. The gear itself, and the loot progression, I guess you could say, because every game nowadays just sort of has that sort of light RPG where you're filling a meter, you're gaining experience points, you are to improve your character, improve the combat, to be more of a deadly weapon, however you want to view it. There is a touch of RPG elements to this game, just like in the first one, and it's working. I mean, I think it's great. I'm having a blast. Like, every time enemies, someone comes crashing through a wall or something happens, it's on, and I can't wait. And I'm ducking and dodging, and it took me a second, you kind of get back into the groove of how the combat works, and the dodge button, and when to block, and those types of things. And there's different attacks that come at you from range, from melee status right in front of you. There's unblockables, blockables, that type of stuff, parries. So you sort of get, at least for me, I'm getting in a really good groove with the combat, and I'm enjoying my sort of loadout. I won't say that it's like a traditional loadout when I'm like, I'm building a range style or whatever, or I want to be a healer or a tank or DPS. Not in that general sense. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. It's just there are ways to fight in this game. There are ways that you can make the combat feel more custom to your playstyle, if that makes any sense. Because I got to turn my fan down. It's a little bit chilly in here. Because the combat is two different types. There are ranged attacks. Obviously, you can throw your axe. If you played the first game, you know this. You can throw your axe, whatever, and you call it back like Thor's hammer. And you have your Blades of Chaos, which do a totally different style of damage and range for you. So, but you can build on that. You can build on it and make it a little bit of your own. So, I'll leave it at that. I don't want to, like I said, I'm trying my best. I keep stopping myself because I just want to just talk to someone about this game. There's a ton of my friends online. Like I open up my friends list on my PlayStation, and it's just, it really is just like Ragnarok, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, COD, Ragnarok. That's all it is. There's a couple of people sprinkled in playing some other stuff, but this game is really, I think it's really hit. I think it came out at the right time, and I think it's a hit with people in general, just the customers out there. This game, just based on my small little group of friends, there's quite a few people playing this game right now. So, all right, so let's move along here. I think that was kind of it. Not open world, but the world itself. It's like I said, I don't want to spoil anything. I've been pleasantly surprised at the variation, the environments and the visuals they've come at me in a way where it's like, oh man, this is like a couple of times it surprises me. It's like, oh man, I didn't see that coming. This is a really cool looking place. I want to walk around and check shit out. And 8 hours, and I'm taking my time with this. I'm looking for every single chest that I see. I'm trying to get as much, hack silver, which is the currency, trying to find as many resources as possible. I'm wandering around. Any sort of side quest, which there are side quests in this game, I'm doing them because they're interesting and you get rewards for it. So everything's just sort of working for me. But I from what I understand, and I know I could be wrong here, but I believe this game is like in the 18 to 20 hour range for completing the campaign. I think I'm probably, if I were to measure how I'm playing the game versus just that knowledge right there, let's just say it's 20 hours, right? And I'm playing 8 hours. I don't believe I have just 12 hours left. I really don't. Just to beat the campaign. Again, that's the main campaign. That's not doing all the side quests. I've heard people that have completed this game or close to it, and they're like at the 40-hour mark, the 35-hour mark. So there's a lot of meat on the bone. Like I feel like I'm still exploring and finding things and unlocking things that I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know I could do that. And it's kind of adds a whole new section of things for me to do. So I feel like it's the steady diet of activities, combat, story. There's always something happening. Everything I do feels like it has meaning to the world, and it's great. It's great. I was trying to shout out to Lucas. He's my best friend, and I was texting him and I was telling him, because you need to get this game, and he doesn't have a PS5. He has a PS4. I think he has a Pro. I was asking him, he wasn't sure. Normie. You want to talk about a normie? He is you look up normie in the dictionary, it's his face. He genuinely is like the prototypical normie. I call myself a normie, and I got no problem with being a normie, but he's even more normie than me. So I'm trying to convince him to play this game, and he played and beat the first game, and I didn't want to spoil anything, but I'm trying to, tell him you need to check this game out, and he wants to play the game. I think what he's waiting on is he wants to get the PlayStation 5. Listen, I have a PlayStation 5, so it's easy for me to say, oh, play it on PlayStation 5. Just go out and get you one. Look, PlayStations are expensive. Christmas is coming, the holidays. But if you can, I recommend monitoring those Black Friday sales, monitoring holiday sales. If you can play this on a PS5, I think you would get more out of the experience. I've looked at some of the comparisons, and I've seen the technical limitations for the base PS4 and the PS4 Pro. If you have a Pro, I think you'll be okay. I think you'll get the same experience. I think there's a lot of loading times that won't be there, but obviously On a PS5, it just loads fast as hell. The performance mode for me, and that's what I'm playing in, I have really, I think I've left 30 frames behind. I tried playing this in 30 frames, native 4K or 4K or whatever, and it just wasn't my thing. Once I went to 60 frames, I was like, whoa, just totally, the game changed for me. It was so much better. So that would be the real thing. I think you can get 60 frames or close to it. I think it's like 50 or 55 frames on a PS4 Pro. So I think that's substantial enough that would, you could get sort of the most out of the game. But I wouldn't recommend playing this game in 30 frames. That's just me. I'm new to the 60 frames, family. I really didn't care about that until recently. And now that I've sort of made the jump to 60 frames, that's really all I want to play any game at. So that's a personal preference. But, back to me trying to explain to Lucas, hey, check this game out. I want to talk to him about so many things, but I can't. I want him to experience this himself and to see it himself. So I really hope he gets the game. And I really hope that you get this game. I highly recommend it. Again, the game could take a total shit in the third and final act, and I may hate the ending. And that's a very fair and could happen. That there's a possibility that happens. So, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this game, you can't, there's nothing better. It's game of the year. And we'll talk about that in a second. All I can say is based on what I've played thus far on my PS5. Again, I'm playing it on an OLED screen. I'm playing at 60 frames per second. I'm playing the balanced gameplay. Not too difficult, not super easy. I think it's fantastic, and I cannot wait to go play it. And hopefully I can squeeze in some time after I make this video. Maybe I'll go knock out an hour or so, because it's just that type of game. It's all I think about. That's all I've been thinking about. Like when I'm at work, I'm like, oh man, I could be playing God of War right now. I get home and, I got, normie wife wants to watch a show or whatever, or Monday Night Football's on, and Thursday Night Football, or, I'm at the gym or something like that. And I'm like, God, I could be playing God of War right now. So it's that type of game for me. But let's move on, because I want to talk about a couple other things. First of all, I want to talk about the Metacritic score. So it's rocking a 94, which is very solid. I don't put a lot of faith in media. And just because there's a lot of media sites that are raw God of War, doesn't fucking change my opinion. I don't all of a sudden like IGN because they loved it, or any other gaming or media outlet. They're still the same shitheads in my opinion. It's media, and I just don't like media. However, for the developer and for, Sony Santa Monica and for Sony and PlayStation, it is it's a badge of honor, and it's something that can be marketed to their favor, and that could entice more people to play the game. So, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and turncoat and cheer on fucking media, because that will never happen. I do think it does say a lot about the game in general. The critics score, the audience score, I think was only like an 84 or something like that. I have it right here. Let's see. 94 Metacritic score, user score 8.4. So, I still think that's an 8.4 from the audience. I think is really good. I'm not going to go into like, oh, I think the review bombing. Look, review bombing can happen, but I don't think that's what this is. This, and again, it's okay to not like this game. I think it's totally fine. I think some people get caught up in like, how could you not like this game? This game's amazing. Oh, geez, what's wrong with you? Listen, I played Horizon Forbidden West. I think it looks marvelous, sounds fantastic. It's got a lot of things going really, really good for it. But the protagonist is a pain in the ass. She's sort of a wet rag. It's just like, she's so one note. And personally, I don't think the side characters are that interesting. Who you interact with through that in the, I don't know, I think I played the game for about 12, 13 hours. The side quest characters and the main story characters, none of it really grabbed me, So, but that game is beloved. People love that game. We got a lot of high scores, a lot of, audience scores. They were good in general, terms. So I understand that not every game is for everybody. That's totally fine and fair. And that shouldn't be, right? I mean, Jesus. But I do think it's it is good for the game to have such a high Metacritic score. You know, I do stick by that. But I wanted to talk about it, and it's funny because my notes here, all I wrote down was Xbox channels talking shit, because that's what they're doing. Okay, it's so funny because so many people and so many Xbox channels and Team Green, they really are bitter, and I totally understand. I get it. They have every right to be bitter, and who better to take it out on than the competition, the opposing piece of plastic box, electronics, whatever you want to say. I understand it, but it's still fucking funny. It's still funny because, I mean, I've heard some shit from a few videos, and one of the things that I've heard multiple times is that I like old Sony. I wish Sony would be more like PS1, PS2 days, because that was when they were good. Really? Like that's the argument. So the argument now is that Sony sucks today, but they used to be great. So I'm not a fanboy. And that's sort of like it's like them hedging their bets. They don't want to just trash Sony and PlayStation outright. So they got to make it like that makes them sound not like an Xbox fanboy. The fuck it does. You sound even worse. It just sounds like you're making excuses, you're hedging your bets, you're coping, you're trying your best. It's like you're really, really, really trying not to sound like a fanboy while sounding like a fanboy. And it just comes off like just sour fucking grapes. It really does. I like one guy was, you know, and again, I listened to a few different channels, and I like listening to them just for fun. It's just fun. I just love listening to people who are just fucking bitter and just want to rag on something. And it's like the Sony used to be good argument. One guy was talking about how the original God of Wars are so much better than this. Listen, I've played God of War 1, 2, and 3. I didn't play Chains of Olympus, or, you know, I think that was the PS, was that the Vita or the Portable? I don't remember. But they're the main 3 games are the ones that I played and beat, all 3 of them. Those games for me at the time were fantastic. I loved them. Those are just gems in my opinion. But one of the things that I heard a lot back in those times was that Kratos sucked. He was a shitty protagonist. He was an asshole. He was a murderer. All he wanted to do was kill people and blah blah blah. And he's so one note, and it's just this bullshit revenge tale, and it's getting old. It's getting tired. I remember reading articles in Game Informer magazine of like the worst heroes in gaming, and Kratos was like one of the main ones. Like he was a shit character. Fast forward the clock, and Kratos is now I think it's totally justified to say that he was more of a one-note character back then. I think it's totally justified. But I also think that the game developers and the story writers for 1, 2, and 3, they put enough on the table to justify that sort of behavior from him. It made sense. It fit his character. He was on a revenge path. That's all he wanted to do was avenge his family. Essentially kind of start off as family, but he just hated the gods, you know, and he even talks about the gods in 2018 game. And just we'll just say those 3 reboot games. He talks about gods and he doesn't like them. You know, he genuinely just doesn't like them. He hates them, and he hates being a god. That's part of him torturing himself, is that he doesn't like being who he is, but he just is. But he's been manipulated, just shit on repeatedly by the gods, Zeus and, all the gods that you fought in those first 3 games, Hercules, Hermes, trying to think of it. When you defeat Ares in the first game to become the God of War, the character made sense to me, but I didn't, I was like, okay, I don't think he sucks that bad. But it's just so funny that back then Kratos was one note and annoying, and now now that we're here and Xbox is really, really struggling right now, and Sony is just knocking shit out of the park, it's like we have to start digging into the fucking bottom of the basket here and start looking for some old dirty socks to throw out, and stink up the place. Like, oh, he used to be better. I liked him back then, and the combat was so much better, and I liked the fixed camera and blah, blah, blah. And it's like everything that I hear that I used to love, was the shit that people would make fun of back then. So I think it's just coping mechanisms, I guess. Shit just sounds funny. But listening to these people, and they talk about, one guy, I heard him say, like, this is the God of War 1, 2, and 3, that's my Kratos, and that's what I know. And it's like, really? Like, okay, sure it is. Listen, I was there too. Okay, and that wasn't the talk back then. Trust me, that's not what was going on. If you liked Kratos as a character, you got some flack. People were like, really? You like him? He's so annoying, and all he does is yell at the gods, and all he does is murder people, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, now that Kratos is actually a three-dimensional character with guilt and, anger and self-loathing, learning to love, becoming a father. He was married. He had a wife. Again, he remarried, I should say. He's trying to protect his son, protect his family. He's trying to hide. This is like a very deep character that has a lot of nuance to it. And now it's like, oh, this guy sucks. Oh, he's such a pussy. Like, oh, who's this guy? I want my Kratos back. Man, shut the fuck up. That's just sour fucking grapes. So, and that moves me along too, because I've heard this on another channel, and I'm not trying to steal someone's shit here, but I heard this over on Saltiest Gamer, and I listened to Jez as well, but a lot of the guys in that group, I've been hearing that Sony is carrying the industry right now. I don't agree with that 100%, because we always forget about Nintendo. Nintendo's over here dropping good games on a regular basis. They're dropping content. The Switch is just flying off the shelves. It's breaking records. So I don't agree with that. But I do agree that Sony is two of the wheels on the car, for sure. And, and Nintendo is one, and Xbox is the flat tire just fucking dragging it down. That's the best way that I can provide an analogy to that. I really do think that Sony is a big reason why gaming is just sort of peaking right now. And again, I say that, and it's like someone might say, oh, this isn't when game was peaking. Gaming was peaking back in this generation or that generation. Look, right now, talking about the games that are coming out, Sony is dropping hit after hit this year. They're putting a lot of the industry on their back. They really are. Just look at the Game Awards, and I'm not fucking saying Game Awards are now they're awesome, because no. Trust me. I still, same feelings, and we'll talk about that too. But it just, sticking to Sony carrying the industry, you look at the games that come out that are just first-party games that you can only play on PlayStation. Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7, Sifu, Ghostwire Tokyo. I know that's only temporary, but it's still, it's only on PlayStation right now. The Last of Us Part 1, God of War Ragnarok, Callisto Protocol is ready to come out, and that game looks pretty fucking badass. Those are a lot of games. That's a lot of games that you can play on PlayStation right now. And to me, that's something that needs to be, you have to take note of that Sony is over here dropping bangers. They're over here dropping AAA games that are really good. These are quality games that have come out. Now, you may like or dislike some of them. I get it. People want to shit on The Last of Us remake. It's unnecessary, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I've already said that. I don't think they should have, and I'm not paying for it, and I didn't buy it, and I won't buy it until it goes on sale, because I do want to play The Last of Us Part 1 remake on my PlayStation 5, on my OLED screen, to see what it looks like, relive that fantastic story, experience that story all over again. But I'm not paying $70 fucking for it. And there's no one that's going to convince me that it's worth it. I'm sorry. You may think it is. You may think, Normie Channel, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. This is worth blah, blah, blah. I've listened to those arguments. That's just me, and if you like it, you want to play it, or I'm sorry, you want to buy it. If you bought it already, I'm not telling you that you're an idiot or that you fucked up. I'm just saying I'm not spending $70 on a game that I've already bought twice. That's all I'm saying. But I do think that Sony in 2022, they have carried gaming, a big portion of gaming on their back. They really have, because Microsoft ain't doing shit right now. They are just not doing anything right now. All they're really focusing on right now is Activision Blizzard. That's where all the conversation is, and it kind of gets annoying listening to, these Xbox channels who are spending loads of their time of their podcast weekly shows. They have fucking dedicated like segments to Sony, talking about the games that have come out. I was listening to an Xbox channel today, and they had a 20-minute section of the game or the show that was just talking about Ragnarok. And it's like, this is an Xbox channel. You can't even fucking play this on Xbox, But I think that really sort of drives home that point. And I think it is a definitely ammo to make that point valid that Sony is carrying the industry right now, is that everyone's talking about PlayStation, and they have been all year. And there is a lot of like taking pot shots at Sony. One of the main ones that I hear a lot is, it's the same game. Every game they make, it's the same third person, over the shoulder, blah, blah, blah. Open world check marks and all this other bullshit. And it's like there's no nuance. They look at the formula and they say, oh, there's no nuance whatsoever. None. Like Ghost of Tsushima is exactly the same as Horizon Forbidden West. The same. It's the fucking same game. Sorry. If you played one, you played them all. That's such a fucking cliche bullshit argument. But I've been listening to that. I've been listening to, how much longer is Sony going to keep making these types of games? It's the same game every time. It's like, well, I guess to answer that question, and I think it's fucking common sense, is when they stop selling. That's when they'll stop making them. When the games stop making the money, stop getting them the attention, stop winning them the awards, they'll stop making them. Okay? Sony is not in the business to not make money, so I think that's paramount right there. When they cease to make money off these types of games is when they will stop making them, and they'll stop having their studios make them. But I'm sorry, they're just banging them out, and they're selling. These games are selling. They're hitting big numbers. They're carrying the hardware with kick-ass software, and I still think that's the name of the game. I know Xbox is going a different direction. They're going subscription service. I know Sony has retooled their subscription service. Listen, I get it. But I think Xbox genuinely is moving away from just consoles in general. I think, and I've heard that before, and I was like, are they really? But yeah, that's kind of what they're doing. They're buying up studios, they're buying up publishers so that they can get games only on their system. And to me, I personally, there's a lot of talk right now from the Xbox side about how what Microsoft is doing is they're going to buy these games and they're all coming to Game Pass day and date. I don't believe that. I'll believe it when I see it. And I think if it does happen, I think by that point, Microsoft will have raised the subscription price for Game Pass significantly. Okay. I'm guessing like a $10 a month bump. That's what I'm guessing. Could be more. But getting back to Sony and getting back to, kind of where I started with this is, yes, I do think Sony is shouldering a lot of the industry right now, for sure. Just look at all the games that I've named. Callisto Protocol, is the only one that we haven't played yet, or that is not out yet. But all those other games have done well, and I listen to all the just ragging on them like, oh, it's the same old game. But man, Xbox channels and Team Green spend a fucking lot of time talking about PlayStation for one reason and one reason only, in my opinion. It's because there's nothing to talk about with Xbox. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing coming out. They've already reached back into the pockets of like, wait until next year, 2023 is going to be lit. Sony's going to be crying, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. I've heard that. I heard that last year. Heard it the year before. I've been hearing wait till next year for about 6 years now. It's just non-fucking stop. Since the Xbox One generation, that's all I've heard. So, I'll believe when I see it. But I do think that there is credence to that statement that Sony is carrying the industry. I don't think they're carrying the entire industry. That, like I said, I've explained it, but they're definitely shouldering a lot of it. So, moving along, because I wanted to talk just a smidge about Game of the Year, because the Game of the Year, what do they call them? Nominees, they were announced. I'm not going through all these categories because there's more than one category. Let me say that. There's Game of the Year, there's Director of the Year, there's Performance, blah, 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 Score. But the Game of the Year, which is the one that most people give a shit about, which most people just tune in for, is just this one thing. But the Game of the Year has A Plague Tale Requiem, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So I've played a little bit of Elden Ring. I do not like Souls-likes. I just don't like them. I'm sorry. It's every time I watch a Souls game, and even when I'm playing, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Then I go watch people play, and I'm like, so you roll, and you roll, and then you swipe, and you swipe, and you roll, and you roll, and you roll. You drink a potion, you swipe, You block, you roll, you roll, you roll. I've watched a lot of playthroughs. I've watched a lot of videos. To me, that Souls formula, it's just not for me. Okay. And that's fine. I bought the fucking game because I am not taking away from what Elden Ring is. Elden Ring is fantastic. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And I think that, me personally, I named all those titles. I think Elden Ring is going to win Game of the Year. I do. That's just where and I'm not trying to like, oh, I'm just saying that to make you just throw it off so that I can be, oh my God, God of War run. No. Listen, I genuinely believe that because of two reasons. One, some of the stuff that I just named. The game is revolutionary. You're talking about a completely new take on the Souls, like from the Souls OG FromSoft. So, and they did something fantastic. The game looks amazing, sounds amazing. The exploration, the just zero hand holding, all that, everything that people love about Souls games, it's all there, and it's now in an open world, a badass looking one too. I haven't heard anything about the story though. That's one thing that there's no one going off about. The Elden Ring story is fucking, don't spoil it because it's so amazing. I haven't heard that from anybody, so I think that's probably where it's going to be lacking. And obviously God of War is going to have a stronger story because, like I said, I think Elden Ring's going to win out of all those that I just named. I think that God of War can win, but I really think it's a two-horse race. I think it's God of War. I think it's Elden Ring. I'm not shitting on any of those games. My opinion of Horizon Forbidden West is well known. I did not play A Plague Tale Requiem because I never played the first game. So I just didn't want to. Let me rephrase that. I didn't want to play this game because I haven't played the first one. I was like, oh shit, I need to play the first one. So I was like, well, I'm not playing this now because it's a direct sequel. So I don't want to screw it up. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, not my type of shit. I don't play JRPGs. Just not my thing, but I know that title is very popular in the gaming community. Stray, I have that downloaded. I'm sorry, I don't know how this game got on here, and I would fucking die laughing if Stray won. I really would. I'd be like, hey, you know what? Everyone's fucking talking about Elden Ring, God of War, and who's better and whatnot. Then Stray comes along and the kitty cat takes it home. Shit, I think it would be fucking hysterical. I just don't think Stray has any business being on this list with these games. These are very high caliber games. And again, a budget does not make a game of the year. Production does not make a game of the year. And I mean production like value, like tons of money thrown into graphics and so on and voice acting and whatever. A game should be based on general merits of like gameplay, story, gameplay mechanics themselves. And again, no game is this. There are lots of RPGs. There are lots of first-person shooters. There are a lot of open-world games, but do they accomplish everything that makes a first-person shooter great? Do they accomplish everything that makes a story-based sort of adventure? Does it provide everything that makes it great? That's kind of how you have to grade them. And just based on what these other games are, I just think Stray, I don't know why Stray's on here. I think it's weird. I really do. I think it's weird. But again, I haven't beat God of War. So I'm not going to say that it's going to win. I'm not going to say I think it's going to win either. I think Elden Ring's going to win based on just how all the things that I said. I think God of War absolutely. If I finish this game and it's a fucking 10 in my mind, then sure, I'll say yeah, it's between these two, and I'm going to go one way or the other. I just don't know because Elden Ring just didn't fucking do it for me. But I've watched tons and tons of playthroughs and people playing the game, and most surprising deaths and most close victories and that type of shit, and most crazy bosses or most scary moments or surprises or whatever, or jump scares. It's fantastic. Looks amazing. Look, and I'm not going to shit on the game. I just don't like the playstyle. I just really don't. The game mechanics just don't do it for me. So, but I will say this too, because I don't think Game of the Year, to me, some people, I think it's in the middle. And I was trying to think this, I was thinking this through earlier today. I think some people look at Game of the Year and they say, it's all that matters. Like, that's it. If you win Game of the fucking Year, if you win GOTY, you are the shit. No one can talk shit to you. No one can talk shit to the console that you're on. Yada, yada, yada. You're awesome. And then there's the other side that says Game of the Year doesn't mean a fucking thing. It's trash. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's fixed. I hate it. Okay? Me, I'm kind of in the middle where if I'm not mistaken, the Game of the Year ballots that are being cast are from like a selected group of media. So reviewers, you know how I feel about media. So that's kind of a strike against them. Kind of like, oh boy, you know, because I don't know, fuck media. That's just how I think. The other side of it though is when a game or developer wins Game of the Year, it's really good for them. It's really, really good for them. They now have that cachet with the market. They can market their game as Game of the Year. They can splash all of the scores from all the 10s and 9s that they've got for their advertisements going forward, which brings in more money for them. They can make a Game of the Year edition. You know, the lucrative rewards for winning Game of the Year are very real. So in that respect, I do think Game of the Year has some weight. It's just the media part of it. When you have these game reviewers who are so inconsistent, who you know they say I'm objective, they say I don't whatever, I don't this, I don't that. Then they go back to their Xbox channel show, or they go back to their Sony PlayStation show, or they go back to their Nintendo show, and then they shit talk all the other two console makers, and they brag about how great their console is, how great red is, or how great blue is, or how great green is. And then they go out and they're like, I'm being totally objective. This is just me. This is just my opinion, but I'm being objective. It's like, are you genuinely, can you say that with the fucking straight face? You know what I mean? I don't buy it. So that part of it kind of makes it a little sour for me. I don't put the type of stock into it that the people that love it do. But I definitely think it is good for the developer, and I think that the developer should not be punished for shitty fucking reviewers. The developer shouldn't be punished for shit media who just wants to be first. They don't want to be right. They don't give a shit. All they want to do is be the one who has all the clicks. That's it. That's all they want to do. I don't blame the developer for that. Now, having said that, you know, when people talk about Game of the Year, most of the time it really is who is their console, like what games from their console are being nominated. I get it. It's like cheering for your team. You want your team to win. Nothing. I don't have a problem with that. I genuinely don't have a problem with fanboys, and I think that fanboy shit gets thrown around in like this negative way, but it's like, you're a fucking fanboy too. You're making videos like, oh, I hate fanboys. Fanboys suck. And then they're like, Xbox is amazing, Sony sucks, and this game sucks, and Sony can't do anything right. And the other way around too. Totally the other way around. Xbox is trash, and I hate fanboys. But Xbox is trash. It's the same shit. It's a blanket that can cover the entire industry. I just think that having fans is a good thing. You know, I think that's what we do. You know, we love to cheer for underdogs, or we have our team. We don't want to feel stupid or whatever you want to say, but I just don't look at like fanboys. I look at fanboys kind of like I look at normies. It's like, whatever. Who gives a fuck? You want to call me a fanboy? Okay. Then you tell me that you're not without being one. That's tricky. You know what I mean? It's tricky for a lot of these channels out there who claim that they hate fanboys. They really fucking sound fanboyish. So anyways, back to Game of the Year. I think it's important, but I just, I don't know. I think that it's good for the dev, obviously. It's good for the publisher. But I also do think it's good for the console, So that's not lost on me. So like if God of War was to win Game of the Year, that makes Sony look really good, So, and I understand. I get it. One thing that I heard that I thought was total bullshit, which was a game shouldn't win Game of the Year if it's only on one console. Really? Really? So that was on an Xbox channel that I heard that from. Really? So that's why you're choosing Elden Ring is because of that reason? What about Breath of the Wild? Do you think Breath of the Wild shouldn't have been nominated at all because of that? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, they won Game of the Year, did they not? Maybe I'm wrong. It's been a while. It's like there's this idea, and I say that because that's a Nintendo property. That you're not playing that shit on fucking Xbox or PlayStation. So it's just whatever the best game is. It's really what it should be about is who put forth the best art. That's who should win the Game of the Year. So, and I'll say this too, and I wrote this down and I forgot about this. Just talking about the Game Awards in general, God, these the game awards have they're just this giant fucking commercial, and it lasts way too long. It's way too fucking long. And was it last year? I can't remember if it was last year, but it was just like, holy crap. It just felt like it just drug on. I want to say when it was like over 2 hours. For me personally, I care about really like best or game of the year, best sound, and then like, best action game and that general shit. But when we start talking about best esports team, best esports coach, best esports athlete, I'm like, fuck, I don't care. Give a fuck, It's just like, it's stupid. It's like padded out. There's 31 fucking categories, and I'm not going through them all, but that's a lot. I think it's too many. And on top of that, I think most people are there to just see to see the big contests, to see who's going to win the big awards, and they're there to watch trailers and see upcoming shit. So, I mean, that's why I watch it, and I think generally most people do, but I could be wrong. Like I said, there is a sect of people who think Game of the Year it's the end all be all. It's the Oscar, and it's like, not really. Sorry, I don't think so. All right, but that's it. I'm gonna wrap it up. Check out God of War Ragnarok. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great game. I hope it continues to be great all the way through to the end. But this normie, from a normie perspective, talking to you normies out there, I think you should get it. I think you enjoy it, but that's just me. But anyways, thank you for taking the time. Please like, share, and subscribe. You have a great night, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.